What's going on, guys? Philip at Trade Genius. We're going to take a look at some Bitcoin charts, talk about this last move up and where we're headed to at this point now that we've come up and upper part of this pattern that we've been holding in. So we'll talk about that and we'll look at things like the internals. I got something to say about that, our longer term outlook, our meme chart, and also our heat map. Also, we'll take a look at the fear and greed just to see where that's at. All right, guys, so let's dive into this video. And also, if you're interested in these moneymaker signals that we've been showing you guys how to take the trades on, you can do it longer term or shorter term. Head over to Trade Like a Genius. We're running fall specials, 40% off. If you want to get the moneymaker, you just go up with the software and hit that. All right, guys, let's dive into this video.
Trade Genius.
All right, guys, been a few days since we talked, so let's talk about what's going on. This move up came off of the weekend where there was more trade news. Essentially, the Chinese wanted a delay on the tariffs that were going into effect September 1st, and they didn't get it. And so they went ahead and fought back with the yuan devaluation. Now, you can see that really good on a 4-hour chart. If I shrink this up, we'll look over here at this 4-hour chart. You'll see the blue line is the yuan shoots up. Bitcoin follows suit, but what has since happened is the yuan has backtracked that move, and today we got news that they're going to be sending, China is going to be sending their head negotiator over to talk more shop about trade, and that's gotten basically the markets back into risk on mode, which means things like gold and safe haven hedges come off. Now Bitcoin hasn't seen that move. That move that like gold's come off, but Bitcoin hasn't really come off as much. But this yuan leading lower like this has me suspect that we probably will see this roll over. Now, if we go back and take a look quickly at this consolidation pattern, we've come up and we've basically not quite tagged that, but it's rolled over. I mean, if we roll over here and come back down to this point here, that would be to be expected. You don't necessarily have to tag the trend line perfectly. That's just kind of like your general area of resistance. But if that rolled over, that would be in line with kind of what we're expecting, where we see more of a consolidation after the kind of the blow off move here. And as we get closer toward the fourth quarter, closer to halving. So it would not surprise me to meander more, but I do think that, anything sub 10K at this point, low nines, as far as risk reward goes, because of where we are in the cycle, that's the sweet spot. Again, we've been holding this weekly block here. As every time price is probed down to that area, we can't really get it closed below it, and we're moving up. There's a lot of comparisons to this, like what we saw at the 6K level. But again, you have to recognize we're in a different part of the cycle. So normally at this point of the cycle, we're going to consolidate from gains out of the bear market and then start grinding higher. And we'll look at that compared to the meme chart, which kind of shows you the analog of what happened last time that we came out of a bear market. All right, looking at internals. One thing I want you guys to note about the BitMEX longs and short funding. Okay, so if the bars are north of the midline here, then that means most of the traders are positioned long. And so the funding goes higher for holding a long position, and vice versa. If it's down, pointing down, then most are short. What you will find is that a lot of times the mask positioning is wrong-footed. That's not always the case, but when you get into consolidations like we're in now, okay, so this is a 30-minute chart. We're really taking a magnified look at the consolidation. You'll notice that the way that they're positioned ultimately ends up price resolves opposite of where they're positioned when it comes out of the consolidation moves that Bitcoin gets into. So kind of similar here as what we saw here, and you see that they're all positioned long again. So I'm actually expecting this to fall out of bed. Downside targets would be somewhere in the low 10s, and if that breaks down, we'd be probably visiting the 9,700 and 9,800 area. So that's what I'm looking at currently as we move forward in the week. Long-term chart, again, RSI, weekly RSI, we're in buy country. Now, time-wise, we are like what we are here, but we're in a different part of the bull cycle now because we're much farther advanced. We've gone up and cleared the 50-point area on the RSI on a weekly, so we're well into the bear. So we're actually more like what it was back toward November, December as we head toward the halving cycle, as opposed to like we're in September, and September back here was we hadn't quite surged past the bearish line for the weekly RSI. So we're ahead of the game there. So if we compare where we are as far as the RSI cycle goes, it's more like this. So we could see a bit of consolidation here is all I'm saying in this 50 zone for the RSI before we start getting another surge higher. Looking at the meme chart. All right, so this basically is just taking an analog look at prior halving cycle bottom and then the move out. And right now we're looking at a 2-to-1 scale, right? So things are happening twice as fast right now as it was back in 2015, 2016. So basically these lines kind of highlight high points in the market action, and they've kind of correlated with what we've seen so far coming out. So now what it's telegraphing is we kind of go sideways and we chop. So we've seen that consolidation, and we should see a bit more. But interestingly would be that we hold these levels come September 30th, end of the month. We would see a breakout of that consolidation. Okay, so a breakout of this essentially, and we head to higher highs. And then subsequent price action would be very commensurate with what Bitcoin does, right? You'd have this full breakout, say we go to 17,000, because that would be close to one of our fib multiplier levels. And then people think it's on like Donkey Kong, comes back, sweeps all the lows, retests prior highs, bounces back up, sweeps again, and then consolidates and then grinds higher. I mean, that would be a very classic Bitcoin move right there. So I'm going to keep tabs on this, but really the confirming factor would be if we start getting a big move at the end of September into October. Heat map wise, crossed over back into buy the dip mode. So basically buy the dip mode, I look for the first touch on the weighted moving average 20, which we got there, and we actually got that bounce up. Currently in the room, we are short off of that bounce, even though we're in a blue environment, only because of, I'm looking at more other things other than this, which means that we could, if we test under this 10,002, I'd probably be of the mind to not be short anymore, and still, you could still be in a blue condition in that situation on the heat map. So what this is looking at, guys, if you haven't seen our previous videos, it's just looking at how the futures traders are pricing the futures compared to where we are with the spot price, and that can be indicative to whether we're looking at a bullish move. So you can see where it flipped here, bullish, and then we had a nice move up, and or whether or not things are looking bearish. So essentially it's you buy the dip when you're in this mode, or you sell the rip, and that's how we like to trade that, little more conservative than just trading off the color flip. I think buy the dip, as long as it stays blue, any drops will probably result in a pop. Okay. All right, guys, so that's going to do it. I think we see a rollover. We probably should expect to see a bounce in the low 10s, but ultimately I think that if things switch over, heat map switch to bear mode, then ultimately we can see a drop down to the low, around 9,500 again. Again, people are going to get really bearish if we drop down there again, but just keep in mind this formation and this pattern. What would nullify a bounce here for me would be a close below these levels here. So if we got a close, like a daily close below 9,300, I would be then saying that we could start probing possibly that gap close. Okay, so that's, you want to be aware of the bearish scenarios too. But right now I'm leaning toward this consolidation holding, and then we grind higher and then see if we get that pop into October. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Appreciate you guys watching. Please hit like and subscribe. Really helps our channel, and we'll keep bringing the videos to you. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.
Trade Genius.